Morning. Welcome to our Sunday service at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Augusta. This morning our service will be given by Reverend Don Cameron, titled, Where is All the Science Gone? This morning our announcements will be read by our board member, Marcy.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, everyone. Our regular UU Monday meditation group gathering is going to meet online. That'll be Monday at 7 o'clock, and contact Elizabeth McNabb or Melanie Roberts for an invite to that. The UU Goddess group will gather in a hybrid service, both in the sanctuary and via Zoom on Thursday, December 10th at 6 o'clock in celebration of Moondranight, the Night of the Mothers, heralding the winter solstice. All women over 18 are welcome. Contact Jezebel and Nat for more information, and the Zoom link is already available in the announcements. There will be a virtual Parents Happy Holiday Hour on Friday, December 11th from 8:30 p.m. until everyone's done. An informal gathering for parents to socialize with each other and enjoy some adult time after the kids are in bed. Contact Kim Miner for more information. And bring the chili cook-off Sunday from 12:30 to 2:30, and that's going to be held in the UUCA playground area. Donations will be accepted at the event. Bring your own bowl or spoon, or you can purchase a commemorative mug for $10. You can check the announcements or contact Abigail Drescher or Lynn Dennison if you would like to participate and cook in that. Calling all middle school and high school age youth. Later Sunday evening on December 13th from 6:30 to 8, join a virtual youth group meeting for some holiday activities and a brainstorming session about how you envision your youth group. Again, you can contact Kim Miner for more information about this event. And please remember our Christmas project. As in years past, our congregation will be helping community agencies provide Christmas gifts for their clients. This year, we are working with NECO Foster Care and Child Enrichment. The gifts will need to be collected by December 13th. We're helping a total of 7 children between the 2 agencies. And contact Jan Parsons if you're able to help. And she has a wish list for each child. Our virtual Blue Christmas service is going to be held on Tuesday, December 15th at 7 p.m. and that will be via Zoom. The link will be in the announcements and on the calendar. This is a special service of music and meditation to acknowledge the difficulties of the season and the complex emotions that many of us feel during this time. Our church remains tenuously in phase 3 of reopening, and that means that groups less than 15 are allowed to meet at the church. You need to let your board liaison or church administrator know if you would like to meet at the church. Please be aware that cases are rising throughout the country, and if the moving weekly average of cases begins to rise again in our area, we're likely to go back to phase 2, and face-to-face meetings will have to stop. We have a reopening team that's closely watching this situation. And Ted reminds us to please get immunized against seasonal flu. It's our best defense to prevent getting the flu for those ages 6 months and older. Continue to perform hand hygiene by washing your hand or by using alcohol hand sanitizers, wearing a face cover when you're outside. Keep that 6 feet of social distancing and stay home when you're sick. These measures prevent the flu and the coronavirus infection. And now Reverend Don has a few announcements.
First, I'd like to welcome any visitors that are with us this morning. It's just a wonderful thing to have you with us. And if you like, we have something called Coffee with the Minister where you can talk with me, and we'll set up a link for that if you're interested. I'd also like to explain for people that the Advent candle that we're doing, we kind of rearranged the chalice lighting and the deal, and we're not doing Spirit of Life during the Advent season. But don't worry, Spirit of Life will return, but we're hoping that this will flow a little better. Okay, Chris, that's the end of my announcement.
Good morning, all. Our opening hymn is 347, Gather the Spirit. This is a well-known hymn for us. It's a beautiful hymn. So I hope you'll all be singing along at home with me. Here we go. Gather the Spirit, harvest abroad. Our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Our trials this light appear all the same. Gathered in peace, gathered in thanks, gathered in sympathy now and then, gathered in hope, compassion and strength, gathered to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit, heart, mind, seeds for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gathered in peace, gathered in thanks, gathered in sympathy now and then, gathered in hope, compassion and strength, gathered to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit, growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun, winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather the peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gathered in hope, compassion and strength, gathered to celebrate once again.
Welcome to our Interfaith Advent Wreath Lighting. The Advent wreath is a traditionally Christian practice, but the symbolism of light in the darkness has many meanings. Light is sometimes used as a metaphor for human reason, and this is why so many institutions of higher learning have as their motto some variation of the Latin phrase lux et veritas, or light and truth. We call the period of intellectual discovery in the 18th century Europe the Enlightenment. Due to the accomplishments of its many scientists and philosophers, we owe much of our modern world to their insights, from a government with checks and balances, to the laws of physics, right down to the electric lights we use to illuminate and decorate our homes in this dark season. And so we light the first and second candles of the wreath in the spirit of human reason, which makes progress possible. Chris?
probably the most famous musician associated with the Enlightenment was Mozart. And so our Advent musical response this morning is a small piece by Mozart at his sunniest for light. So this is a sunny Sunday morning, a little Mozart for Advent.
Thank you, David. 2020 has been a very busy year. People are going to be writing books about this year for the rest of our lives. There has just been so much happening. This morning, our pastoral care member, Pat Lynch Hayes, will be offering our joys and sorrows.
Good morning. Now is the time in our service when we are invited to share the joys and sorrows that have recently come into our lives. I'm not hearing myself. Am I on? Okay. The comments that you offer will be private to those of us here and are not part of the recorded session.
Thank you, Pat. Sometimes when we talk about meditation or when I teach meditation, people say, what is there to meditate about? I don't have anything to meditate about. If you think about it, along with the fact that an asteroid, we just brought back some of its fragments to the Earth safely without it hitting the Earth and killing everything. We've had men on the moon, brought rocks back from the moon. We've seen 3,500 exoplanets so far. This next 30 years, between now and 2050, will probably be the most important and critical life and death years in the history of the human species. And however it turns out, this will be one of the most important and critical natural epochs in the history of life on our planet. That's the next 30 years. Some of us won't be here that long to see it all. A lot of you will, and your children will. You're a sentient being. You are among the species of most sentient beings among life in the history of this planet as we know. You are alive on this pale blue dot, which so far as we know is the only one capable of supporting life. And you get to be here at one of the most critical, disturbing, and exciting moments in human history. If you want to meditate on something, ask yourself, how did you get that view? Meditate for 1 minute, and I'll mind the time. Hi. Remembering what a tremendous deal we have had here in the past, and with faith in the future of our chance to get together again when all this is over, because everything will change. Jesus said that the first will be last and the last will be first. I don't think he was talking about status or power. I think he was talking about the unpredictability of life. We're in a tight spot right now. Things will get better because that's what things do. And this is your chance to support our church, our community, at a time when the chips are down and we need your help. The link will be on your computer.
I begin by apologizing that I'm not Peter, Paul, and Mary. Where has all the science gone? Long time passing. Where has all the science gone? Long time ago. Where has all the science gone? Gone to disbelief, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? When I served at church in Laguna Beach, California, we met at an old folks home and had a service during the week because they couldn't come to the church. And Mark Diamond brought me a 2015 issue of National Geographic, and the title of it was Age of Disbelief. And the subtitle, Skepticism About Science is on the Rise, and Polarization is the Order of the Day. What's causing reasonable people to doubt reason? Remember, that's 2015. The presidential election was only a year away from when this article was written. American culture was ripe for a Trump victory. If you find this hard to believe, consider this litany. Think the moon landings were faked? Go online. You'll find plenty of people who agree that the moon landings were fake. In a display at the Creation Museum in Petersburg, Kentucky, Adam and Eve share paradise with a dinosaur. A third of Americans believe humans have existed in their present form since time began. Only 40% of Americans accept that human activity is the dominant cause of global warming. Nearly 2/3 of Americans want creationism based on the book of Genesis to be taught in our public schools, along with evolution. 2/3 of Americans. However, here's the kicker. Half of Americans can't name Genesis as the first book of the Bible. Half. 1 out of every 5 Americans still believe that the sun revolves around the earth. It appears that Americans have placed science on par with folk beliefs. Half of American adults believe in ghosts, 1/3 believe in astrology, 3/4 believe in angels, and 4/5 believe in miracles. How Joe Achenbach opens his article in National Geographic is a fun but telling summary of this age of disbelief. There's a scene in Stanley Kubrick's comic masterpiece, Dr. Strangelove, in which Jack D. Ripper, an American general who has gone rogue and ordered a nuclear attack on the Soviet Union, unspools his paranoid worldview. And the explanation for why he drinks only distilled water or rainwater and only pure grain alcohol. To Lionel Mandrake, a dizzy with anxiety group captain in the Royal Air Force. Ripper, have you ever heard of this thing called fluoridation? Fluoridation of water? Mandrake, yes, I've heard of that, Jack. Yes, yes. Ripper, well, do you know what it is? Mandrake, no, I don't know what it is now. Ripper, do you realize that fluoridation is the most monstrously conceived and dangerous communist plot we have ever had to face? The movie came out in 1964, by which time the health benefits of fluoridation had been thoroughly established and anti-fluoridation conspiracy theories could be the stuff of comedy. So you might be surprised to learn that half a century later, fluoridation continues to incite fear and paranoia. In 2013, citizens in Portland, Oregon, of all places, one of only a few major American cities that don't fluoridate their water, blocked a plan by local officials to do so. Opponents didn't like the idea of government adding chemicals to their water. And last, but by no means the least important, is the vaccine backlash in America, especially now as the pandemic spins out of control. 46 states allow religious exemptions from vaccination requirements, and 19 states allow philosophical ones. Anti-vaccine activist and actress Jenny McCarthy famously said on the Oprah Winfrey Show, "The University of Google is where I got my degree from." What are we to make of all this? Are Americans simply stupid, unintelligent, and dim-witted? After all, 42% of American college graduates never read a book after graduation. 80% of American families did not buy a book in the last year. Nonetheless, to call Americans simply stupid, unintelligent, and dim-witted is too easy of an answer, a dead end of sorts. In thinking about this, I reflected on my dad. He was a very successful podiatrist. However, all he knew was his medical journals. He knew very little of literature, poetry, plays, or the visual arts. All he really knew was his profession. Thinking about my dad in this way led me to remember one of my favorite books from college history class, Richard Hofstadter's Anti-Intellectualism in American Life, published in 1963. While I'm name-dropping authors, there's an excellent update to Hofstadter's classic, Susan Jacoby's The Age of American Unreason in a Culture of Lies. I stumbled upon Jacoby's book at a members' home while serving the congregation in Laguna Beach, California. Glad I did. It's an excellent book. But let's get back to my dad and his inexperience with the liberal arts. Anti-intellectualism, according to Hofstadter, is, and I'm quoting, a resentment of the life of the mind and those who are considered to represent it. and a disposition to constantly minimize the value of that life. Hofstadter is very clear in his insistence that Americans are not dumb. There is great intelligence in Americans, just as there is great professionalism. However, this professional intelligence is mostly mechanical and functional, utilitarian, if you will. Consequently, many Americans fall under the spell of what Hofstadter calls the mystique of practicality. In the past 10 years, the University of Minnesota, the University of Iowa, and the State University System of New York have advanced the long-running trend of slashing funding for the humanities and cutting off general education requirements for their undergraduate students. Only 8% of American college students now major in the humanities. That's staggering. What are the political implications of all this? Our life together as a nation. Susan Jacoby warns that most Americans don't know how many Supreme Court justices there are. According to Newsweek, 70% of Americans have no idea what their country's most important historical, political, and legal document even is. Of course, I'm talking about the United States Constitution. Many politicians who supported the second Iraq War later changed their minds, explaining, "We were lied to." And they said to the public, "You were lied to." But the deeper conversation we need to be having, Jacoby sagely asked, is why were Americans so willing to be lied to? Not only average citizens, but politicians. Of course, President Trump has added a whole new layer to this question. Roper polled Americans between ages 18 and 25. Only 23% of college-educated young people could find Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, and Israel on a map. It wasn't a blank map. It meant they didn't know where the Middle East was either. This has something to do with why, as a country, we have shallow political discussions. We as a people, living in a democracy, have not lived up to our obligation to learn what we ought to learn to make informed decisions. We can't learn what we need to know from 5-second sound bites. We can't learn what we need to know from a quick hit on the internet. We can't learn what we need to know in a quick judgment and shallow analysis. We can only learn the things we need to know from talking to each other, from reading books, and from careful analysis. We all need to know a lot more than we know now. We've become satisfied with too little. We've become satisfied with the lowest common denominator. It is not good enough when only 23% of our young people who have some college can find these countries on a map. We all need to be able to learn how to find these countries on a map. Richard Hofstadter wrote, "The preference for vocationalism is linked to a preference for character or personality over mind, and for conformity over individuality and talent. This preference leads us," Hofstadter warns, "to the lowest common denominator criterion of thought and technician conformity of lifestyle." And Americans in surprising numbers are expressing their preference for conformity over individuality and talent. The America we are creating is one where poetry is rare, philosophy is suspect, science is placed on par with folk beliefs, while the infrastructure necessary for the creation and maintenance of greatness crumbles. I leave you with an old friend, Thomas Jefferson. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free, state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. Spoken. Amen. Blessed be.
Thank you, Reverend Don, for those interesting words. Our closing hymn is hymn number 297, and we're going to do a little something interesting here. The words are wonderful for our sermon topic today, the words of the hymn, but the melody is one that we don't really know or one that we sing. And so there's a little thing in the back of our hymnal called a metrical index. And if a hymn has a certain metrical index, you can substitute the words among any other hymns that have that same metrical index. It's quite interesting. So we are singing the words from 297, and they'll be up on the screen. But the melody actually comes from hymn number 34, The Gift of Love. And you'll see that it works perfectly, and we know that hymn well, so hopefully you'll join me. The sun of truth, but dimly shines behind the veiling clouds of night. But every searching eye finds some partial glimmer of its light. The certainty of which we crave, no mortal ones can ever know. Uncharted waters we must brave and face whatever winds may blow. Go forsake lover we may love, and must not let our courage fail. And through the winds of doubt blow strong upon the track this ocean sail. From honest doubt we shall not flee, nor fetter the inquiring mind. For where the hearts of all are free, but true of faith we there shall find.
Our closing words are from the American author Annie Dillard. Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord? That's an allusion to Psalm 24. Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord? Or who shall stand in his holy place? There is no one but us. There is no one to send, nor a clean hand, nor a pure heart on the face of the earth, but only us, a generation comforting ourselves with the notion that we have come at an awkward time, that our innocent fathers and mothers who are all dead, as if innocence had ever been, and our children busy in trouble, and we find ourselves unfit, not yet ready, having each of us chosen wrongly, made a false start, failed, yielded to impulse in the tangled comfort of pleasures, and grown exhausted, unable to see the thread. But there is no one but us. There never has been.
As so often happens, our service has provided me the inspiration for our postlude today. And so now for our postlude, we're going to have a little Peter, Paul, and Mary. So enjoy and happy Sunday.